Welcome to another edition of the Insider Mailbag. I'm Jared Johnson, and we have some good questions from inside the Red Raiders subscribers, so I'm going to dive right into these questions. First one comes from TTU in Colorado, who asks, what does Tech baseball have to do the rest of the way out and in the Big 12 tournament to get any decent seed in a regional? Would Texas Tech get in a regional today? Now, he asked this last week, and Tech has lost several Big 12 games. I lost count, honestly, in a row. Not just series, but games. And they finished 10th. They actually got lucky that the Sunday game at Oklahoma State was rained out. Baylor was battling with Texas Tech for that 10th spot. The top 10 teams in the Big 12 actually get to the Big 12 tournament, and the rest are left out. So Tech will at least have an opportunity to go to the Big 12 tournament, compete. And if they do win, unlikely as it sounds, if they do win the tournament, the Big 12 tournament, they will be in the NCAA tournament. Now, we actually had Teddy Cahill of Baseball America on the Rockin' pregame radio show on Friday. He was pretty confident that he doesn't think Texas Tech is going to be in the NCAA tournament. And I can't disagree with him based on Tech's record, specifically in the Big 12 and just how it's finished the season. So it appears that the Red Raiders would have to win the Big 12 tournament to get in the NCAA tournament. Now, some other NCAA projections, and I'm not as familiar with baseball projections as I am, say, basketball projections and like who to trust and all that, but there are some projections out there, some pundits who still have Texas Tech projected as making the tournament. So if they do make the tournament, I mean, I don't see them any higher than a 3, but most likely a 4 seed in a regional. And also, if I had to say, I don't think Texas Tech makes the NCAA tournament as it stands right now. That's just the honest truth. It's been a very rough season. Poor pitching, poor defense, obviously not enough timely hitting, a lot of injuries. There's just been, it seems like anything that could go wrong has gone wrong for Texas Tech on the diamond this season, and that's unfortunate. So, but that's the way I see it as of right now. The next question comes from Tech Freak, who said, in football, does defense still win championships? Absolutely. I mean, honestly, if you're going to win a championship, you need some semblance of balance. But whether it be Kansas City, I mean, that was the best defense Patrick Mahomes probably has ever played with, the one they had this year. Very good defense. Michigan had a very good defense. Other teams that made the college football playoffs, whether it be Texas's defense specifically, really the whole defense, but its interior of his defensive line was stout, was really good. UW had a very good defense as well to go along with their amazing offense. So it helps, absolutely. It helps having a great offense. I think you do need balance. But, yeah, defense still wins championships in football. Absolutely. Next question comes from J. Luke Raid, who wants to know, are there any experienced quarterbacks remaining in the portal worthwhile pursuing for depth and QB room leadership? Yeah, they're not of course, the portal's closed, but guys that have already entered are still eligible, and then you have grad transfers that are eligible to transfer whenever. That being said, according to very good sources, not just one, but more than one, very good sources at Texas Tech have told me they weren't pursuing any position. They added a walk-on offensive line transfer, but that was kind of just like, why not? But they say they like their quarterback room. They're saying all the right things about Baron Morton and the health of his shoulder. I am a little skeptical. They like Cameron Brown. I do too. He's much better than I thought he was going to be. He was much better in the spring game, much better throughout spring. I had multiple people independently come up and say, man, this Cameron Brown guy looks good. And I'm like, spring ball, let's see, and I'm still, we would still have to see just how effective can Cameron Brown be. But he's a much better passer than I was expecting. I mean, he just really is. He has a much better arm. And they'll be hypothetically, they would be able to do a lot of things with him that I think would make Texas Tech fans happy. And they have enough weapons around him to where I think he could be effective. But Will Hammond is a true freshman I really like as well. He's a true freshman. So obviously you wouldn't think he's ready. And then Jake Strong, he's battling. We'll have to see. He's still young. He got thrown out on the fire last year, and he struggled. But I'm not sure. I don't think they've completely given up on Strong either. So they believe they have a quality quarterback room. I think if Baron Morton's healthy, if he is indeed healthy, then they might be right. But then again, we'll have to see how good Morton is if he's actually given an opportunity behind a good offensive line, which is another question. And then if he can stay healthy and just like given the opportunity to play at full strength with good quality players around him, because I think he has a high ceiling. I think Baron Morton could be a very, very good college quarterback. So to answer your question, I do not expect them to add another quarterback to that room heading into next season. Final question comes from Red Raider KA, who says, has the way NIL has changed college sports changed the way you feel about college sports from a love it, hate it, I'm indifferent perspective? No. For me, like I'm kind of cynical by nature. Part of it's just my job, what I do. It's definitely made me like seeing behind the curtain and knowing things that I can never report, never say, has always kind of made me a bit cynical. And I don't really like that. I'm not really big on cynical fans or cynical people, but I can't help it. And I remember going back to conversations I had with Mighty Joe, and just him being kind of like, oh, I like college sports a lot more because it's more pure. It's pure than professional sports. And I kind of argued, look, actually, it's not pure. Pro sports, the numbers are out there. It's paid. These guys are making business decisions. There's more regulation with the salary caps and all these things. All this stuff's been going on is going on under the table with college. There's a dirty, nasty element to it that really I don't see in pro sports. And I love college sports. I love pro sports. I'm all about it, but now that NIL has kind of shown the money part of it, what players can more freely say, like, hey, this was a great offer. This is can help my family, and that's why I chose to go there. I think that kind of shined for some people, for fans who are just like, oh, the pureness of college football, is gone. That veneer has been blown away, and not just scratched or clawed or worn off, but blown away. And I mourn, like in talking with people that have had that feeling, I feel bad for them, because they feel like they've lost a part of their fandom. But on the other hand, I've always thought philosophically that players should get paid. College players are generating so much revenue for even someone like me who makes a living watching them play and talking about their performance and all that, their recruitments and all that stuff. I think it would be very hypocritical of me to make a living off that and then not expect them to get paid. Now, some people say they're already getting a scholarship, several things, and that's right. It has changed the game. There's no doubt. I think on a positive note, it's made off-season talk way more interesting. It's made the sports more year-round, specifically college basketball. I think it's probably been good for basketball in terms of fandom being more engaged more than just in March, so that's interesting. And then for me, though, I'm actually as engaged in terms of watching the actual games as I've ever been. I don't necessarily think it hasn't raised or lowered the quality of the game. Like I would think, like with basketball, it would lower the quality of the game, just because you're throwing a bunch of guys together who haven't played together for years. But I haven't really seen that. And then when you're talking about NIL within the different sports, they're different. Like the way NIL works, the way recruiting works now, the way the transfer portal works with college basketball and college football is very different. Covering those two, thinking about the way you think about it should be very different, because they are. That being said, I think I was also concerned that maybe the ones who have the big programs, the big a lot of money, a lot of big war chests, I guess you could say, never-ending war chests. Like you would think, like Alabama, Michigan, who all of them would like the gap between them and say like a Texas Tech or Baylor or whatever would widen. And I don't necessarily think that's the case. I realize Bama and Texas were and Michigan were in the playoffs this last year, but I do think the transfer portal has allowed that maybe the next tier in most people's eyes nationally, in terms of standing, those teams to kind of make up ground. You're able to retool your roster. You're not beholden just to high school recruits. You're able to augment your roster with transfers, quality transfers, and improve your team. So I think the transfer portal has been really good for Texas Tech. I know you asked about NIL, but I think Tech is playing in a very good space in terms of NIL with the Matador Club. Some people in basketball have stepped up and really helped out in terms of getting some high quality recruits to come to, or transfers to come to Texas Tech as well. So, you know, for me, it hasn't impacted it as negatively. I get tired. The biggest thing is I get kind of worn down with just how worn down the fans are, and I understand. This isn't a judgment. It's just I feel your pain. I've always felt that this was a thing, and it's just now we're seeing it's in our faces, like everything else in society. But I don't. It hasn't changed the sports for me in terms of I still love the games, man. I love them as much as ever. I can't get enough. Right now I'm watching NBA playoffs like crazy. And I watched more bowl games this last year, college football bowl games, which I don't think they've ever been any. They're as meaningless as they've ever been. Let's put it that way. In terms of players opting out and transfer portal guys leaving before the coach is going everywhere, but I still love the sports. There's some competitive, really interesting games that went on in these bowl games. I just said, I'm going to try it and see. I watched more than I have in a long time, and I really enjoyed it. So I love the NFL more than ever. College basketball is great. March Madness was great this year. So, no, man, I'm all in, and I do expect some regulation to be tried, but I think it's going to be kind of the Wild West. So I don't expect this to change anytime soon in terms of anybody to win big court cases or the NCAA to all of a sudden be effective in the regulation. So I would expect more of the same. And I also don't expect a lot of fans to turn off their TV sets or whatnot because of it, because like me, they just love the sport. So, but like I said, great questions from y'all. I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching. That's going to do it for this episode.